second me. I'ma be my own centerpiece. So tell her, don't be your own worst enemy. You're the only one to say that I wanna be when I get older. I'm like a supernova. Goodbye, goodbye to how I used to know you. Goodbye, goodbye. I'm like.
Okay, can you hear us now?
I can.
All right, thanks. I'm not sure what happened, but I'm sure glad that you called back.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's great. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Technology, you have to love it, right? Love-hate
Yeah, right.
relationship. Yeah. Oh
You
my
never
God.
know we're in technology, right?
No, but I sure am grateful that you called back. So tell our guests a little bit about you. I know your name. I know that we met through the NASDAQ Milestone Maker program, but gosh, what is Savitude and why did you start it and all of that good stuff?
Oh, gosh. Well, how much time do we have?
Oh, we have as much time as you want.
No, I'm joking with you. So I was born in Alaska. I think that's important. So I started out with a somewhat a different point of view. I think that because of that. And I moved to Washington, D.C. and grew up with a government academic point of view and thought industry was very foreign. Industry companies was really the bad guys. So it's really odd that now I've come around to being a serial entrepreneur. So when I left school, I was an electron microscopist, formally trained, having worked at Oxford and the University of Maryland Medical School, and then at Johnson & Johnson, then at Becton Dickinson. I got an MBA at night. And I moved into a new career in venture capital in Manhattan. And they moved me out to California. And that lasted about 4 years, long enough for me to realize I really did not like venture capital, at least being on that side of the table. I appreciate what they do.
I have a question for you.
Pardon?
I have a question for you. So some of our listeners, especially the ones that are in the room with us right now, they're interns. They may not know what venture capital companies are. You want to explain that for us?
Venture capital so there is a large world of investment opportunity. And so that ranges in safety. Banks are considered pretty safe. And then, there are different kinds of investment. And venture capital is considered fairly risky. Where 1 in 100 or 2 in 100 might succeed. So it's pretty risky. And so there are organizations of partnerships that are formed by people who supposedly know what they're doing. They collect, millions of dollars to invest in new companies. And they only invest in companies that they believe will grow up to be about at least $1 billion in valuation.
Yeah.
And that is venture capital.
Yes. So I appreciate you taking a little pause there because, as you know, there's Intern Whisper. It's all about interns also. But there's sometimes this area, they go, I don't know what that means. And for the purpose of other listeners that are not necessarily interns, that is a term that established businesses may still not know. So that's where you and I are running. We're looking for those companies or organizations, partnerships that want to invest in companies like yours or mine.
Yes, right.
That is right.
Right. But there are a lot of young people who want to get jobs in venture capital. And I just really want to discourage people from doing that because I don't think it's a great place to work. I don't think you learn values. I don't really think you learn good business thinking. I think it's something you do after you've learned how to run a business and what a business looks like. And I think people are going there when they're young to go after money. And there's better ways to make money, like making it off when your own skill, not off the hard work of someone else's back.
That is true.
But that's my view.
Gotcha. Okay. So anyway, I had interrupted that story.
So I was a venture capitalist, and I jumped to the other side to be a serial entrepreneur. And I was in the medical world. I founded about 5 companies on that side. The last 2 were predictive modeling companies. The first one was in simulating clinical trials, and that company went public. And then right after that, I did another one that predicted how a drug molecule would behave in the body before you did any clinical trials or any kind of testing. And then we were acquired for about $100 million a year after we launched it.
Holy
so see, you
cow.
can make more money as an entrepreneur if you know what you're doing.
That is amazing.
So after that, I had enough of doing that, and thought I was retiring, and spent time with my family, and ended up doing another degree, master's in fashion and textile design, just for fun. And I ended up graduating with and launching my own label, launched an e-commerce label at the Lincoln Center runway during Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week.
Wow.
And I had that e-commerce label for 5 years. And there I learned about the problems in fashion, and there are 2 of them. One is a problem of returns, and that was because of issues with fit. And I thought I must have missed a day of school when they taught fit, and why was I getting returns and having issues with fit? And I thought it was my problem, but then I realized it's really an industry problem. I wasn't any worse off than anybody else. But I realized I could solve the problem using approaches I had used in the other predictive modeling companies. So this is the very funny side, is that I picked up my engineer, my chief technical officer, who was I've known him since he was in 5th grade. He did children's theater with my son. So that's good advice to your audience, is pay attention to your friends' parents as you may get a job there in their companies. So this happens to be a really good match for Nick and I. We are well suited because I'm the creative, I'm a lateral thinker, and he's unbelievably strong technically. And the lateral thinker technically, and together we've been able to put together a pretty interesting solution here at Sava.
So that's a really interesting path that you've had. You went from all of this. Predictive modeling is something that's consistent through every single one of your companies. That's obvious. But you went from this total different industry, from healthcare, medical, into fashion. I cannot imagine 2 totally different dichotomies there.
Well, yeah, and then starting off in, so it's been, science, business, and now the art side, and now back into computer. So I was thinking today in preparation for this that I started out as an electron microscopist, and it's really kind of close to what we're doing now, where we're designing inside AI. We're designing fashion using AI, and I have to say I get the same thrills that I did when I did scanning electron microscopy.
Your vocabulary is like, I could not even spell those if I was in a spelling contest. That would be so hard for me. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm going to have to go really look those words up. And
narrow. It's narrow.
Yeah, it's very niche. Yeah, I see that. Yeah. So I really appreciate, this sounds like rocket science almost to me, but I know it's not rocket science, but it's definitely a high-level science, that's for sure.
What we're doing now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I am so excited about what we're doing. We believed in what we were doing before, and now we're like, oh my God, we are doing some really cool stuff. And I think we're about to kind of explode. You just have a feeling as things go along, and the point we're at, is kind of thrilling. We started off building a system that reverse engineered how a fashion designer thinks. And this is a very different approach than anyone else has taken to solving this problem. And we built this to help recommend clothes to women, to help people understand that there are different body shapes and that's okay. And that our whole thing is that the fashion industry is focused on the hourglass body shape. And a lot of women kind of look badly at themselves in the mirror because they don't have an hourglass body shape and they're not of average proportion. And they say, well, gosh, I wish I could get rid of this or change that. And they strive sometimes through most of their life or hate themselves for most of their life because of it. And we just say, too bad about that. That is just wrong. We have trained our minds to look at an hourglass body shape. But if you look at your own body shape, you realize that you look pretty darn good and you can look good. So we've just launched on our website. Oh my gosh, I think it's 750 images of women at different body shapes and different weights, and how they can look.
Yeah, I took a quiz at the top of your page. I really like your website. It's really beautiful. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about that site? It's savitude.com.
Yeah,
but
savitude.com. Yeah, and you can look at there. Under cut and curves, you can see there are not pages for each of the 9 body shapes, and you can look at the suggestions on how to dress optimally, which dress shapes are best for you. And if you happen to have shapes that aren't ideal, we give you tips on how to adapt them for you. So it's a pretty realistic, practical way of looking at clothes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because when I took the quiz, it was, I think, like 9 questions. It wasn't a lot of questions, so it didn't take
6.
6, yeah. It was really fast, and I was just identifying various parts of the body to say which one looks like you, right?
Yeah.
And then there pops a screen and says, here's some suggested fashion outfits that you should consider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. You can also go to a place on there and it will tell you from the fall runway season which items from all of the designers will work with your body shape.
I don't think I went far enough down the page. I'm going to have to go do that.
So it's in the middle of cut and curves. You can find that link.
Okay. I'm going to go and check that out. But also for our listeners, now I know, I don't think the ladies in the room did this with your site yet. I'm not sure. But I know some of the other ones. We were having a meeting with the team, and they went and they tested out your quiz, and they said, oh, yeah, I would wear this. And they liked the outfits that were displayed.
So, good.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Now,
thank you.
How do we, is this a subscription? How do we engage with the site?
Yeah, so we're B2B. So we sell to retailers. We license our technology to retailers. And so we need to wait for them to license our technology. We put it on their system, and then you need to go there. So so we don't sell directly to or offer our technology directly to the consumer.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we're at the mercy of others becoming convinced and licensing the technology.
Do they get to white label it? And just so
So we just drop a quiz on their e-commerce site, and that's it. So there's not a real question about white labeling it. It's just 6 questions is all that the consumer would see from us. Everything else is up in the cloud. And behind the scenes, we are classifying and sorting all of the assortment in the e-commerce site. And so we'll put together looks and accessorize it for you.
Very
So,
nice.
yeah. So it's really cool. If you're a retailer, you should talk to us. If you're a consumer, tell your stores to call us.
So how do you think that this is going to change like 10, 20 years out? Do you still think that, and I'll throw several questions at you, do you still think that people will go to stores to look for fashion? Do you think that they're going to order online? What do you think will happen
Well,
in that area?
the first big change, I think, I didn't get to talk about this yet, is that, well, the part that I talked about so far is our recommendation technology. So we took that and turned it upside down a little bit, so that we can now design original creations using our technology. So we have built a very powerful visual recognition technology that can read fashion images and identify the design details. And from that, we can make recommendations. So what we now can do is, with that very same visual recognition technology, look at thematic images, non-fashion related images, but inspirational images, and look for hints of design details. And from that, turn them into new creations. And that we were just able to do that this summer. And that's really exciting. And we're marrying that capability with some new technology that simulates how fashion flows in 3D. So you can actually, once you've created the outfit, you identify the fabric, you can see how it will flow and form around the body.
Wow.
So you actually see the whole simulation before you even cut anything.
So when you were first talking about how people are picking up on fashion, or I need an example of it because I'm trying to see the dots in there or connect the dots for myself. Would that be where a designer, they're sketching something out maybe on like an iPad, and then it's the technology is taking those images, those drafts that they create, and seeing how it begins to change over time, I'm not sure how that works.
Okay, so so a designer can go to let me see, so do you know Chihuly, the glass
Yes.
artist? Okay. Has a very distinct color and fluid form of glass. And it can be really terrific inspiration for clothing. Can you imagine what that might be like?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I once did a collection based on Chihuly, and sewed it out and made it. And we also took those very same images and put them in our AI system to see what AI showed. And it used those same images and created clothes from those images in the very same process that I did in my own head, it did in the computer.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you think that people will still continue to create the fashion, or the machines
absolutely.
will get ahead of us?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you need somebody to come up with the idea. You need someone to walk the earth and see the beauty and the earth and nature, and to know fashion is art form of what is happening in society. And you need a designer to do that. You need a designer to make a decision, because our system puts out 6 trillion possibilities. Someone needs to figure out what is relevant for today, what's relevant for that customer, what's relevant for that store. And the designer does that. There's still a role for designers. In fact, I think this technology will make more use of designers, because there'll be much more possibility of cross-promotion with fashion design. So I think instead of doing stupid graphic T-shirts, I think we'll be able to make much more artistic clothing to express a movie, theater work, TV show, museum production or something. I think we can express our ideas much more sophisticated manner in clothing using our technology and get away from crappy t-shirts.
And so then there's this place of like wearable technology where, of course, watches are monitoring, our heart rates and our breathing patterns and our sleeping patterns. I mean, that's just with like accessories, but clothing has become way more breathable, not just with like cotton when we think about it, but it's actually able to help keep us warm, cool our bodies down. There's so much more that fashion is encompassing in just even general wellness. It's not just about the form, it's also about functionality and bringing, I guess, more life to the body even.
Yeah, there is a lot of that, but I'm sorry, but I'm not following that area that well.
Yeah.
But
I've been
I can't
following
really
these Apple
carry much of a
Watches.
conversation on that.
Yeah, I've been following these Apple Watches, but there's an innovation lab here in Orlando that's with University of Central Florida. And I had a tour of their innovation lab, and I am not kidding. They have all of these various types of clothing that are there to truly help impact a better quality of life so that it can, cool you down more quickly. It can keep you warm, just through amazing type of technology.
There's a lot going on with adaptive clothing for people with handicap. Who have a hard time getting dressed or, don't have all of the functionality that we have or the form that we have. So there's there's just genius going on with adaptive clothing and housing and appliances. That area is blossoming, and I love that is happening.
Yeah, because that does impact, the whole quality of life there.
Yeah, for so many people.
Tell me about the song that you have on your website, the music that plays, and how you obtain that.
Oh, that's my favorite story. So let me see. So thank you for bringing up the adaptive clothing story, because it is something that, our company we're really focused on, how women are objectified and trying to avoid objectifying women. So we have a culture of being focused on the other, and not wanting to treat everybody, as human as possible. Even my dog, treat her pretty well. So my son is the events manager at a nonprofit that's called GLAAD, GLAAD. And this is their 30th anniversary year. And last year, so this is a year ago, June, we were at their annual gala in New York. And there was a live auction. Now, we go to this, they have these galas in New York, London, New York, LA, and San Francisco every year. And we obviously go to the one in San Francisco, which happens to be this weekend, if anyone's available. And we like to buy something that's in the live auction. So when we were at the New York one, there was a new item that was in the live auction that I got all excited about. And it was just called a song. And I didn't know what it was, but I just knew I wanted it. And the auction came around to the song, and I started bidding on it. And my husband got really ticked off because he's like, "Well, what is it?" And I said, "I don't know, but I want it." So I didn't participate in bidding it up, but it did, get to a point where I finally raised my hand. And unfortunately, I was bidding against the Getty family.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
couldn't go far. And so I had to stop real fast because I was going to get divorced really soon. But anyway, so we stopped, and so it was very funny. The auctioneer started calling my husband, Brad Pitt, trying to get to participate further. But anyhow, what they did is they divided it between the two of us. So I got a song, and the Gettys got a song too. So what happened is that Justin Tranter, who is the most prolific pop songwriter of the day, he offered the opportunity to write a song for each of us at our direction and have it professionally produced. So like Justin has written for, Gwen Stefani's last album, he wrote most of those songs. He wrote Justin Bieber's Sorry, Cake by the Ocean, a bunch of songs everybody here has heard of, right?
Yeah, those are good songs.
Those are all great songs. And so I talked to Justin afterwards and he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I listened to 4 of his songs, and I said, I don't like this one. I like these 3 for these 3 different reasons. And this is what my company does. And he says, well, it sounds like you want a joyful women's anthem. And I said, yeah, that's right. So that's what he did. And he had this terrific woman sing it. And so I have a pop song that was written for me. And we use it as the tune behind our company's video.
I think that is a really cool story.
It's really fun.
It inspired me.
Song.
I went, now I want to have a song that plays on my website. Oh my gosh. I remember when you shared that, and I went, that is just so cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun.
We have to take a moment for a patron announcement, and then we're going to come back and talk about some other things. But give us just a minute.
Look at the mirror looking back at me. I'ma be my own centerpiece. So tell her, don't be your own worst enemy. You're the only one to say that I wanna be.
What do you think? Who are some women entrepreneurs that inspire you, that you have followed, that have helped shape your thinking?
Oh, entrepreneurs. Who?
So I am inspired.
So I don't know about on the entrepreneurial side, but I would say there are definitely women teachers that have stand out to me. So I think of them as entrepreneurs because they're certainly, I think of them in a similar vein. So I'm going to.
I would agree with you too, because as a teacher, former teacher, I think for me, I sit here and go, that's about as entrepreneurial as you can get. When you're in the classroom, they give you a curriculum and they say, okay, you can deliver it as you wish. And then you're pretty much, your students are your customers, so to speak, but you have to deliver, knowledge to them. And that's part of your product that you're taking out there. And you have to deal with parents, which can be good or bad at many times. But I think it's very entrepreneurial because when I used to teach middle and high school English. And I would go, okay, how do I keep these kids engaged for quite some time? And it's 50 minutes in the classroom. And one of the things that I did is I built a whole unit. Did you ever see the movie The Princess Bride?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So I got that book, and I had them read it. And every other, just so you guys across from the table from me, every other chapter is truly the movie. The other alternating chapters was the most boring book in the whole world. And it was a very historical look at the country of Florin. But it was amazing because it was truly almost the script. There was one thing that was in that book that was not in the movie, and if you want to know what that is, you'd have to read the book. But it's one of my favorite movies. And when I saw the movie, I went, let's read the book. And so I had to build a whole unit around it, and I was surprised that it seems to be a timeless. I'm not sure. Do you two ladies like this movie or know this book or anything about it?
I've seen the movie before. I don't have much to say about it, but I've seen it.
That's okay. That means you're not a fan of it.
Yep, I didn't want to say it, but
that's okay. It's not for everybody. That's not a problem.
I have never seen it.
Oh,
I watched it in the 6th grade. Is that what grade were you teaching?
I taught 10th. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I was advanced. Maybe not. I don't know.
Well, no, I was doing it as a special unit, and it was at the end of the school year, and it's like, how do I keep you guys entertained in the classroom? And so we actually did a lot of plays around it. We had to, I had the students helping to create the quizzes and how were we going to reinforce this as just a lesson across the book, across the rest of the 6 weeks of the semester. And they really had a lot of fun with it. We did like puppet shows, and then that was their ideas, like with sock puppets. Yeah. And then they were also acting it out themselves. So some of it was some drama that was in there. They really liked some of the key phrases. And those are said over and over and again. I love
Any chance you get.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's this place where I think, yes, in the classroom, I think that many teachers are there. They are there as entrepreneurs, in a sense, because they are inspiring. They're creating innovation in the minds of the people that are in there. But sometimes those leaders that influence our thinking are different. And they could be, people that are just in your everyday life. Did you have some of those people that were in your life that inspired you, mentored you, anything like that, Camilla?
Well, my aunt and uncle, my father's middle brother's family, I have always been very close to. And I have to say, they've been really influential in my life. So I have to point to them. And then my husband has been most influential on me, other than my teachers.
And so your husband, let's give him a special shout out. Why is it that how has he influenced your thinking, and why does he inspire you?
In a strange way, I think right now he wished he hadn't inspired me so well, because he's retired and I'm not. So I think he wished I'd stopped. But when we got married, I was a venture capitalist. And I think it was 4 days after our wedding, or when we got back from our honeymoon, I came home and I had quit my job unexpectedly, just impetuously. And he was like, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I just felt like it was the right thing to do." But I felt with him, I had the freedom to be who I needed to be. And never before did I feel that. And he gave me the support that I needed to be that person. And security to explore and be whoever it is I felt like I needed to be. And I think that was a gift. I'd never had that before in my life, and it was wonderful to have. I would not be here if it weren't for him.
Well, that's really, I hope he gets to hear this message and know that he just got a hug from you, and it's, on all of those airwaves. So that's super cool.
Yeah. Well, I think it's what you should look for in the mate. Somebody who lets you be you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So were you ever an intern? Did you ever do an internship?
I did. It wasn't called an internship at that time, I don't believe, but I did do that twice. So I was in college, and so I was really interested in electron microscopy as a sophomore. In April, I got into my Volkswagen and got my denim skirt that I had, denim jeans that I had cut into a skirt, sewn into a skirt, and went to Chicago to a international scientific meeting of electron microscopists. And I was certainly the only college student there, one of very few women there, and just sort of thought I belonged there, and met the people from Oxford and Cambridge, and I got an offer to come and work at Oxford for the summer. And I think that was like I consider that an internship. And so I went there. I was unpaid, but I worked on the first STEM instrument in the world, helped to build the stage. Worked on one of 3 million-volt microscopes in the world at the time. Learned a lot. And then the next summer I went back and worked in the Department of Ophthalmology and tried to develop some techniques in looking at eyes, looking at diabetic eyes, looking at the retina of the eye. So those were 2 internships that I had.
Well, those are very, that sounds like a really hard opportunity to get, because most people are, like in that world of business, and that sounds, again, very, very niche. And it sounds like you must have stood out for you to be able to get that.
Well, they thought I was crazy. Like, who had ever heard of electron microscopy in 1974, So, I happened to have, and I went after it. So, you find out something. That's why I wanted to thank one of my teachers, is that she taught me I could do anything I wanted to do. If you want to go do it, you can go do it. And I went and did it. So not knowing things are sometimes good.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Not knowing that you're not supposed to do that was good for me at the time.
So did that end up resulting in that some of the work that you did, it got published in like those academic journals and things that, are pretty impressive accolades to have?
Well, at that point, I don't think I got any accolades for that, but I did get a couple of things published, yes. But that work is pretty well unnoticed, I think, as an electron microscopist. That was not notable. It was notable only in my gumption and me getting to a place. It got me to Johnson & Johnson and a job there, and I moved on and did an MBA at night, and worked my way over into venture capital. It taught me how to go get what I wanted to get done for myself. You got to go get it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so if an intern were to come and work with you at Savitude, what would that look like for them if they were to come in? And it kind of depends on their role, right?
So we've had a number of internships. So when I had my fashion label and in Savitude, we are actually an official internship sponsor. In the city of Palo Alto, we've been approved to do that. And so we've had a number of interns from the high schools here. Over the last, 10 years. So it depends on who it is, but we tend to take a really strong interest in who is here. If someone is going to come and be an intern, then I take responsibility for that person, and it's a one-on-one relationship. So right now I have a new intern, and he comes in on Sunday from 10 to 12. Mm-hmm. He's a junior in high school. He's recovering from a near-death illness with cancer. He's actually the brother of a former intern. He sits next to me. He works beside me the whole time, and I talk out loud as I do whatever it is I'm doing. And I try and get him to engage with what I do something that's age appropriate, and get him to do the big thing is to get him to participate. I keep saying this is not a spectator sport. You have to engage. And so as soon as he starts reaching for his computer and does things ahead of time before I get to ask him to do it, then I know it's starting to work. So it's kind of parallel play, but interactive parallel play. And so that once we get to a part where we have a communication, then we can start doing some work and start, working on a project, and then it can start learning.
Very nice. Well, how can somebody find Savitude? Since you're B2B, what type of a customer are you looking for? How can they find you? And what would you like our audience to know?
I'd like the audience to know that we are advocates for people to dress as the best they can, that every person can find clothes to look their best, and that there is no excuse for a store to not have clothes that fit your body, and that our goal is for every store to be able to have clothes to fit every person. So that's what we're about. You can find us on www.savitude.com. We're on Twitter, Savitude AI. On Facebook, it's Savitude AI. On Instagram, at just Savitude. So you can try Savitude or Savitude AI to find us. We're also on YouTube. We have some. You can also look at Savitude Women, I think, but we're trying to move that over to Savitude AI.
So, well, and I think this is kind of a later question, or I should have asked this in the beginning, but you focus on just helping women find clothing that fit. Do you have the same goal to help men?
Yeah, we have, right now we're working on the library to design for men.
Oh, nice.
She's just starting that now. So yeah, I think in a month or so we'll have that ready to be designing for men.
Oh, that sounds beautiful.
And then we'll do children.
Nice. So
yeah.
The name Savitude, it came out of what? I'm going to guess savvy and an attitude?
Exactly.
Okay, I made a good guess then.
Yeah, you're smart.
So, and did you do a name change? Because I know some companies have gone through some iterations with, this name didn't resonate with our audience, so maybe I need to change the name. Or did you know that was the name?
We went through a number of names in the beginning until we got one that stuck. What we have, so we went to this one and this stuck. What we did go through is a lot of logos. We did a lot of logo changes.
I love your logo.
Yeah, we like it this one now too. Yeah.
It looks really great.
Thank you. Yeah. I like it now too.
Well, we're going to be wrapping up our show, and typically what we do here at the end is we give a little shout out to Valencia College and to our station manager. My goodness, I think I've called him every week now for the past 3 weeks. So Q, thank you. We love you as always. Specifically me, because I know I've been annoying you in these last 3 weeks. State-of-the-art social broadcasting studio. We have a great atmosphere. We have knowledgeable staff. And we have this great equipment in here to use. So we're going to do some shout-outs around the room. And so, Sydney, who's your shout-out for?
My shout-out is for the coffee I drink every other day. That's keeping me alive.
Every other day?
Every other day.
Okay, well, that means that coffee does a big job for it. It's keeping you alive for 2 days.
Well, that and minimal sleep. I'm trying to do better. But that's just how I'm living right now. So that's what my shout out is going out to.
All right, Miranda, who's your shout out to? And don't tell me it's coffee.
No,
Make it a person.
It's a different cliche. Friends and family, I love you and shout out to you.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you very much.
That's lovely.
All right. So, Camilla, who is your shout out for?
Oh, my shout out today is for, I have 3.
You can do it.
Pardon?
You can totally do that.
Okay. Well, actually, maybe more. So we're in 2 accelerators right now. So the NASDAQ Milestone Makers has been awesome. I recommend that to anybody.
Oh my goodness, it is so good. I cannot say, I totally agree with you. This is like the best of the best.
And then we're in another one called WXR, and they are amazing, and they're in partnership with Verizon. And so after today, I have to give a big shout out to Verizon also. And then just with today's news, I want to give a shout out to a certain senator from California.
Okay. Okay. And then anybody else? Your husband?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, my husband and my daughter and my son.
Very nice, because those are your supporters there. And so my shout out goes to the whole team that's part of Intern Pursuit. I love them. They're just making everything, we're getting into this flow, and they're doing really great. And then also I want to give a shout out to you, Camilla. So thank you for being on the show.
Well, and thank you. Shout out to you for noticing. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Likewise. So you're going to get a link to this, and you can certainly share it from the Facebook page. But we'll send you a link, and then people will be able to find this episode on any of the podcast channels that they follow. So you can add it to your little list of your PR and your promotions.
I will do that. Thank you so much. Take care.
You're very welcome.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
And so you can contact our show at info@internpursuit.tech. You can call us at 321-422-2166. And you can go to our website. And as we close the show, we want to thank you, our listeners. So we're signing off, Sydney.
Look at the mirror looking back at me. I'ma be my own centerpiece. I tell her, don't be your own worst enemy. You're the only one to say that. I wanna be when I get older. I'm like a supernova. Goodbye, goodbye to how I used to know us. Goodbye, goodbye. I'm like, you, yours, baby, you, mine. Move it on over. Move it on over. You know I won't and why. Move it on over. Move it on over. To some extent of my imagining, I knew that I could be my everything. I tell her, you got it all in the bag, baby. You're the only one to save ya. I wanna be when I get older. I'm like a supernova. Goodbye, goodbye to all they used to know us. Goodbye, goodbye. I'm like